If you own a car, you know the last place typically you want to go to is the dealership, unless you're an old person. For all the white rappers today, Eminem had to walk so others could run. By your logic, all the legends and OG rappers from the past are also Trojan horses. See the ignorance? They take it as a personal attack, as if I don't think that. I do think that they didn't want to sell out the overall underlying message of what hip-hop is. And then guys like Run DMC came along, you're sellouts, and it's not like you can have a comfortable conversation with most white people about this because they get offended or think you're calling them specifically a racist. Black music, black culture historically is used to get something popular. You don't have to look far. Jelly Roll and Post Malone. Why is ChatGPT so bad at writing stand-up? I hate this already, but let me read the text before.
Black Zeus, the podcast, season 6, featuring Black Zeus and Dante, aka Black Zeus on YouTube, Patreon, and Instagram. Alright, I'm done.
Hey, what's going on, beautiful people? It's your boy Black Zeus. We are back in the studio for another episode of Black Zeus, the podcast, season 6, episode 32. I hope your last 7 days were beautiful. I hope your next 7 days are even more beautiful. Thank you for being back here with just me. I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag early. Dante is not here this week. Recording pretty late. Both of us very active weekends. Both of us exhausted. We had separate weekends, but both of us were too exhausted to end up recording, and here I am recording alone, late, close to when we release. But gotta give you guys a full episode. First of all, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. If you haven't seen me live, you can catch me performing. I'll be in London, Ontario, and Kitchener-Waterloo area. I'll also be back in Toronto. Check my Instagram, aka Black Zeus. I post all my dates there. Usually the beginning of the week for the shows at the end of the week and all that good stuff. If you want to see me, if you can't see me, if you're not in the area, Toronto, Ontario, Canada area, go support live comedy wherever you are, because the next latest greatest is in your neighborhood and they just need your support. Also, go check out some of the latest videos on the page. The newest episode and the last for a while episode of Black Zeus to Show. Episode 10 part B has dropped on the channel. The wrap up to Dante and myself. We took a comedy road trip to Texas and surrounding areas not too long ago, and we filmed and documented the whole thing. Got a bunch of interviews with a bunch of dope people. Hung out with some really amazing and legendary comedians and up and comers. You know what I'm saying? So go check that out. New clips on the channel, all that good stuff. The housekeeping is now out of the way. Normally this is when I would bring Dante into the episode. But you know what it is. If you are returning to the episode, welcome back, beautiful people. If you're new, hello. You too can be a beautiful person. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. And that's about as much as I can beg. I can't really beg anymore. I know how I use YouTube. And yeah, that subscribe thing is really hard to do, even though you kind of always land back on the same pages. Not going to beg you, but I'm seeing right now, I'm looking at the number. It keeps going up. Steady but surely. So thank you to all the new people that have joined. Welcome, beautiful people. But let's just get right into it, man. One of the things that kept me and Dante away this weekend, like the reason I'm so tired, Dante had like functions to go to and all that stuff. I was doing a bunch of comedy, but I had a bunch of car trouble during the weekend. And I guess I'll start here. Dealerships can burn in hell. How about that? Dealerships, if you own a car, you know the last place typically you want to go to is the dealership, unless you're an old person. And then in your mind, you're like, I can't trust anybody but the dealership. I need to make sure everything is factory. If you want to get bent over and effed in the A, you're going to get effed in the A on Saturday. Little South Park reference. But let me explain to you how I had a car issue. It was an exhaust issue. It was already diagnosed. I already had the code. I had the issues narrowed down, and I called my dealership. Normally, I don't even go to the dealership. I have my own mechanic. I've actually bigged him up on the podcast before. Get your own local mechanic. trustworthy, someone who's not going to bend you over and F you in the A on Saturday. But the reason I went to the dealership is because recently I had to go there to get my key replaced, and it actually wasn't the worst experience, other than it cost me $350 for one key. Okay, one key. They don't even give you a pair. One key, $350. Regardless, I knew I was getting rinsed for that. But the reason I decided to go back to the dealership is because a friend of mine recently had issues with their vehicle, and they typically have good interactions with their dealership. They even mentioned they were just at the dealership with a last-minute problem recently, and he was in and out within like a day or a day and a half, and it was very reasonably priced for the problem that it was. So I'm like, you know what, man? This guy's having good luck at the dealership. Why not get some more major type work done from the official source? So I call the dealership, I set up the appointment. I tell them all the stuff, and they even input it in the notes. It's like, okay, he's got it diagnosed. He's got the code, I go there, remember, exhaust problem. I pull up. I drop off the vehicle. They give me a ride back. I wait about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I get a call. And you know it's bad when anybody calls you and it's like, hey, man. Like, the guy was sad to call me. You could tell. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And the guy's like, yeah, so the problem is this and this and this. It's going to be about $2,800. So you're going to want to pay up now or, he wasn't like that. But $3,000 essentially. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't shell that out right now. Let me call you back. Let me figure things out. Any normal person, look, I'm not a car guru, but I have decent enough understanding and knowledge of cars. And I especially know how to just look stuff up. I have the code reader. I know how to read the codes on the vehicle. And I've grown up with friends who are gearheads. So like I can maneuver my way around an engine bay, but not really. I'm not trying to flex like I know that much, but I know enough to not get rinsed. So I look around for the parts, and I can find really decent quality parts for like $800, $900. I found some cheaper, obviously not the greatest quality, but you could even find stuff in the $300-$500 range. That's not including install, right? Like the time for the mechanic, which is the most expensive part. But then I call a couple shops, or actually I started with an automotive store to see if they had the parts in stock. And then I just like, let me ask the mechanic what they would charge to do this. This is how I know someone's watching out for me, bro. Something is looking out for me. I am aligned somehow. And even when I stumble, I'm not stumbling, baby. I'm actually being I'm being positioned. That sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. If Dante was here, I would get a big old, hey, yo. Yeah, the mechanic really positioned me. But anyway, so I asked the mechanic. I'm like, hey, man, I'm having these exhaust issues. I see you have the part here. I'm just wondering if I can get a quote on installation. And I'm calling like a big box store that has like a Canadian Tire, which is a big chain in Canada. I think it's like the Pep Boys in America. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. AutoZone, pretty much the same thing. And the mechanic is like, honestly, man, if you're having any type of exhaust or muffler issue, I always recommend Zorro Mufflers, who they're called. This is what the store is called. It's a family-owned business. That's what you want to hear this day and age. You barely hear it anymore. He's like, call these guys. I promise you, like their prices and their quality and all that stuff can't be beat. So I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. My car is in the dealership, mind you. Okay. And I know that if I get it fixed by them, it's at least a day for the part. And then it's probably another day. Plus, we're coming up on a holiday, so I wasn't going to see my car for at least 3 to 4 days. I had a show that night or the night after. So I call those guys, and I tell them the problem I'm having, and they're like, "Yeah, we do this, but we don't take appointments here at the shop. It's first come, first serve. But typically, we can at least like get it looked at and let you know." And then they give me I'm like, I know you can't give me the exact price, but can you give me a rough estimate? And the guy estimated me like $900 on the phone. But he's like, I'm not looking at it. This is just me going off what you're saying. There's a chance it could be cheaper. There's a chance it could be more expensive, obviously. But at this point, I take my chances. I feel like things are on the right side with the flow of energy. So I call the friggin' dealership back, and it took me at least 20 minutes to get through to anybody. Jeez. Okay. Gave me my car. They actually rerouted me 3 times. I had to call back because it kept going to a voicemail. I'm like, bro, just give me an Uber back to the shop and let me pick up my vehicle. By the way, the diagnostic, just for them to give me the code that I already gave them that my car had, was like $200. Yo, F the dealerships, bro. F the dealerships. F them. They will literally bend you over. Because let me explain to you how I take my car immediately from the dealership down to the muffler shop. And it's a Saturday. It's a Friday. I'm lying. It's a Friday. And thankfully, it's still before noon. There was about an hour wait. That's fine. I leave. I wait. I walk around the neighborhood. They look at my car, explain to me how the mechanic brought me under my vehicle, said everything looks pretty good, man, but I could see that this is the issue, most likely. I can chop this out. He gave me 2 quotes, bro, a more expensive one and a cheaper one. He's like, if I don't have to do all this extra welding and stuff, then it's this price. If I do, then it's this price. And could you guess? What would you imagine? $2,700 to $2,900 at the dealership. What would you imagine? Maybe $2,000? Maybe $1,500? $280, bro. $280 to that dealership, bro. Bruh, I hope bad things come to the people who are deciding whatever to charge. That is highway robbery. You are literally frigging rinsing people. And you know what's sad, man? I saw a lot of elderly people in that lineup when I was at the dealership bringing their cars in. Mostly everybody was over the age of like 45, 50. Are you good? Like, bro, go f yourself. How about that? I haven't dropped the F-bomb yet. F you. That is absolute bullshit. Anyways, that's my little rant on dealerships. Always ask around. Always look around. Try and find if they still exist. Do not be afraid because it's a smaller location but it's not the dealership. I don't have the actual logo that's on my car on the building too. You're nuts, bro. You're nuts. Because they even quoted me. They're like, if we do have to do the job that the dealership said they'd have, it was like $600 cheaper. That. Oh. Anyways, that's why Dante's not here. Let's keep things moving right along because I do have a few things I want to talk about. And before we get to the comedy recap, which of course is what this podcast is built for and all that good stuff, why not go down this rant rabbit hole a little bit longer? I'm going to do something that I don't normally do on the podcast. I'm going to double back and talk about something I just talked about. Not last episode, but the episode before. A couple episodes ago, it was titled The Eminem Theory or My Eminem Theory. And essentially, to give you the point form, I have a theory that Eminem was used by the industry. Not saying, again, this is not me saying Eminem sucked or anything like this, although I do personally think he doesn't stand up anymore. I enjoyed Eminem when I was 14, and just to reiterate, I liked the early stuff, but anything when he starts doing the friggin' goofy bullshit, the way you say it, I can't believe it, I never seen a house like that. If you're still listening to that as an adult, something's wrong with you. My personal opinion, again, it's just an opinion. Who gives a shit? And what I was saying was, hindsight being 2020, looking at the landscape of rap hip hop now, it's so obvious to me that Eminem was used like other white musicians in their other respective genres to give white people an avenue into that lane of art. This would be rap hip hop, but it's happened before, and we'll get into that in a minute. Eminem was a Trojan horse so that white people could get into rap and never have to look at a black rapper again. It was the start of it, and absolutely looking at things now, dude, I'm a black person that grew up in Canada. I've been surrounded by, and again, this isn't a knock, but I have enough of my own personal experiences now. And it's gotten so far to the point where there's people out there who just avoid not just black rap, but all black art altogether, which really is a hard thing to do when you think about the origins of all these things. And I'm not trying to be like, this is a anti-white or blah, blah, blah. Because, bro, let me break down why I'm even going back to this. Because let's get over here on the YouTube page. This is the clip, all right? Not the full episode, but the clip on the YouTube channel, my theory on Eminem's place in hip hop. And one of the comments that the person left, and I've heard this before, that's why I'm doubling back to this, okay? I literally, like, some of y'all are so not just unreasonable, but you speak from your ass. You think I'm talking, like, people take things so personally. They hear me attack who might be their favorite rapper or whatever, and it's like I'm personally attacking them. When I can tell, because I'm speaking from a true historical place here, Eminem 100% was the rap Trojan horse for white people to not have to listen to black hip hop and culture, period. You can't front. And if you say otherwise, then I know you don't know the actual origins of this shit. And let's take a look at an example of this. Here's someone who left a comment on that page. I think the words Trojan horse is a poor way of saying it. It's more like, I don't know, have you tried... Sorry about that. Have you tried quote unquote pioneer? Question mark. Of course Eminem's a pioneer. You fucking weirdos. He brought his own rap style and genre. Some people like it, others don't. You once liked it, you simply grew out of it. End of story. No need to call the dude a virus. For all the white rappers today, Eminem had to walk so others could run. Undeniable impact. By your logic, all the legends and OG rappers from the past are also Trojan horses. Which, see the ignorance? They take it as a personal attack, as if I don't think that. I do think that, and we'll get into that in a minute, weirdo. Poor analogy. Rap can and should be for everyone and any race or origin, which if you knew the origins of hip hop, guess what, dummy? It is. When did I say it's not? Because I said Eminem was a Trojan horse? You feel personally attacked? This is for all you weirdos that attach your feelings to opinions, especially of others. Jesus. Rap can and should be for everyone in any race or origin. Everyone wins, and artists who make a true impact should always be celebrated for growing the genre, regardless of race. Good for you. I bet you felt accomplished. Here's my response to that, and then we'll get into this full rant here. My thing was, people can avoid black culture altogether, and it's because of quote-unquote pioneers like Eminem. You think it's coincidence? Look at blues, rock, country, rap, etc., etc. You can choose to see it from a narrow perspective or on a larger scale. I didn't say Eminem was bad. I didn't say he didn't earn his spot. But if you're not going to ask why was that spot given to him and pushed so heavily, sure, he was unique, but he wasn't the only unique white guy. Maybe the best one for the job the industry wanted to get done, like selling white communities their own messaging that didn't exactly fit the narrative that gangsta rap was feeding the ethnic communities. Eminem was 100% used for this. Know your hip-hop history, because if you did, you'd know this was all orchestrated. Your last statement of poor analogy lets me know right there you don't even know the roots of hip-hop and why it was created and for whom, by whom, and that the first major hip-hop successes were picked not because they were they were picked because they were down with going commercial, beginning the end of the true nature of hip-hop. Eminem came later to tap into white communities and get them to stop listening to real hip-hop messaging, which actually created unity between all people. If you understand, I'm not going to give you the whole breakdown here. If you're actually interested, KRS-One would be a great place to start. Type in KRS-One, the origins of hip hop. He gives a great breakdown because guess what? He was there. He was one of the kids at the first block party where hip hop was started in the 70s. DJ Kool Herc, then you got Bambaataa, and then you got Grandmaster Flash, I believe, are the three original pioneers of hip hop. Hip hop literally was created as a backlash to the fuckery that is the state. That is all the conspiracy type stuff. but it had a much more organic origin. Let me just move forward a little bit. Okay, so those are the origins of hip hop, which you can absolutely look into. But did you know that the original guys that were the mainstream rappers, let's just pick one as an example, Run DMC, one of the pioneers of hip hop. Do you know that there was another group, and damn, I'm pissed at myself for not remembering this. There's another group that was widely considered to be more talented and better. The industry, when it went commercial, think about this? Hip hop started as a togetherness thing. You listen to KRS-One, he literally says hip hop is not about race. There's Japanese dudes that are hip hop. There's white dudes that are hip hop. There's Croatian dudes that are hip hop. It's not like hip hop is literally like, it is a culture within and of itself. It is a unity movement. It is a togetherness movement at its core. Obviously now you don't even hear the word hip hop. You hear rap, and when you think rap, you think gangster bullshit, you think trap, you think lean, you think hood violence. And do you think that that's by coincidence? And also, that is for the ethnic communities. You listen to white rap now, and what are they talking about? Depression, friggin' school shootings, anxiety, sadness, and friggin' just fast rap. Bro, they had to splinter everything off. And this is how we get to such fuckery today. This is why the music is so trash. The messaging is so garbage, because it's not about the messaging. It's about commercialism. Back to the Run DMC thing. The other group that was widely known to be better than Run DMC, all the original pioneers of hip hop, the mainstream guys, the LL Cool J's, the these and these and these. Do you know that there was a whole group of rappers that were there at that time too, that refused to go commercial because they didn't want to sell out the overall underlying message of what hip hop is? And then guys like Run DMC came along, your sellouts. I'm sorry, sure they have good songs and stuff, but it's sellout bullshit. You think I'm just going to call out Eminem and not call, this is the hypocrisy in people, or at least I'm so personally offended. You're attacking me personally. And for sure, what you're saying means there's no nuance to it. You must be some weird racial divided person or something. I don't know what people think, but clearly they just bro, these are weirdos to me. You're weirdos to me. You landed on my video, on my page. I get that you were thinking you had a point, but this is the majority of people, bro. You're speaking out your ass. I'm only speaking on my platform about things that I feel like I know about, and I always state this is an opinion. You shouldn't be maybe you should be inspired to look into it a little more instead of just talking out your ass. Eminem stinks now, bro. You can't go back and listen to that, and that's just my opinion. There's a great quote. There was a white rapper that actually left a comment on the real version of the shorts version of that post. Let me just dig up that comment because it was so funny. And you see there's actually people who use their brain and don't take things personally. Let me find it real quick. Okay, here's the Eminem thing. Bada-bum. And the comments. Hi, white rapper here. Shout outs to Get Slurred, by the way. Hi, white rapper here. Been saying this for years. Glad someone thinks I'm not a giant hater for once, just because I'm not impressed with someone rhyming 17 multis together to make orange rhyme with Al Borland's 4-inch foreign porridge in the door hinge. Bro, that, by the way, that's one of the greatest M bars to not come from M ever. There's reasonable people out there also. You can't just take offense and be like, oh, he's a black guy saying some racial shit, so therefore it's got to be the most biased bullshit ever. Bro, what is going on? So let's do a little bit of digging right now. Let's look into, this is why I say Eminem was the rap version, because we already know. And it's not like you can have a comfortable conversation with most white people about this because they get offended or think you're calling them specifically a racist for saying country music, folk music, rock music, blues music, damn near any cultural thing has its origins in melanin. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you've already heard Elvis, the whole Elvis comparison with friggin' Chuck Berry. And there's a debate between that because yes, Elvis did covers of black musicians, But again, it's the Eminem factor. Those black musicians weren't getting the same play, weren't getting the same distribution, weren't getting the same push. But Elvis, who's doing literally covers of Chuck Berry songs, becomes the king of rock and roll. What the f are you talking about? Chuck Berry literally created that shit. Anyway, and there's others other than Chuck Berry. Let's go to folk music. You would think now, by the looks of it, that country and folk is a purely white phenomenon. Are you dumb? Where do you think this shit came from? There was recently, I saw a clip. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Like, I don't watch this stuff, but my algorithm likes to feed me things that'll put me in rant mode. There was a female musician at the Country Music Awards recently, and there was a bunch of controversy around her acceptance speech because she literally just said, let's not forget to give credit to the black people that created this shit. And just deadly silence from the crowd. What do you mean there, white girl? You must be confused. What are you, some type of white apologist? What are you, some type of apologist? Country isn't all racist. You fucking weirdos, bro. Is it wrong to just say, bro, this shit came from other people? It's okay. Like, it's so weird because I feel like a lot of people who get irked by that, again, speaking from my personal experiences, growing up in Canada, you know how many white people you just say this to and they immediately get defensive as if you're standing there and pointing a finger at them being like, you racist mother. Like, you can't even have a conversation about shit, or they can't even admit to racial biases. That's the weirdest part to me. Like, I have so many white friends that do, and I think that's very healthy because that's the only way you can really have any type of dialogue. Patrice O'Neill, on the wall, salutes, always have something to relate back, something to what Patrice has said. Everybody admits there's racism. Does racism exist? Of course it does. Are you racist? No. So somebody please show me, where is racism? Where is a racist? Because we all know it exists, but nobody is a racist. Go f yourself, bro. Even I have racial prejudices and biases, but I hate everything and everybody equally, which means I love everything and everybody equally. It's like yin and yang. Like, I'm gonna look at everything. I'm gonna also call out the hypocrisy in black communities. Because, bro, how are we in such a position in the world right now where things are so divided and it's because nobody's honest, man. Nobody, like, it's so hard to actually just be honest about this. Let me see if I can find this Country Music Award speech. Black country. Let me see if this will pull it up. Boom. All right. Maren Morris wins Female Vocalist of the Year at the CMA Awards. Okay. Come on now.
And the CMA Award for Female Vocal.
Yeah, okay, you won. Yeah, let me get to your speech.
Oh my God. I'm really going to try not to curse.
She looks like Kelly
Sorry,
Clarkson.
Robert, if I do, I'm really not going to.
Do they just like print white bitches that look
Thank you so
like
much
each other?
to my team. I have a lot of people to thank, and they're the typical ones that lift me up and made this dream come true with me. But there are some names in my mind that I want to give recognition to because I'm just a fan of their music, and they are country as it gets, and I just want them all to know how much we love them back. And just check out their music after this. It's Linda Martell, Yola, Mickey Guyton, Rissy Palmer.
She's bigging up black country
Brittany
artists.
Spencer, Rhiannon Giddens.
And just
There
other
are
country artists in general.
So many amazing black women
Boom!
pioneered and continue to pioneer this genre. And I know they're gonna come after me. They've come before me, but you've made this genre so, so beautiful. I hope you know that we see you. Thank you for making me so inspired as a singer in this genre. And this has just been the most magical night. I get to go see my baby after this. Thank you, country music.
Do you hear the silence?
Thank you.
Do you hear the tepid claps? Bro, this black music, Black culture historically is used to get something popular. You don't have to look far. If you are at least capable of just checking yourself, you don't have to look far. Let's give you 2 recent examples. First of all, I just typed this into Google. This is Google's AI response. Country music is black. Country music has deep roots in African American culture and was created by black people, though the genre is often perceived as a white one. Black enslaved people created music that influenced early country and hillbilly music, using instruments like the banjo, a descendant of the West African akonting. There's lots of them. There's the karar in Ethiopia. There's lots of stringed instruments. Anyways, black musicians like DeFord Bailey and Leslie Riddle significantly influenced early country music, but their contributions have often been overshadowed or erased. That's just a simple Google friggin'. Let's look at some of the most garbage music coming out today that is popular. Again, my opinion. Sorry if I offended you. Jelly Roll and Post Malone. Okay, 2 beloved white musicians right now. I actually don't think they're as beloved as the mainstream push would have you believe, because they're really heavily pushed. But let's take a closer look at the start of their careers. Let's start with Post Malone. What kind of music was Post Malone making at the beginning when he got not the beginning? Actually, yeah, before he even blew up. What was he doing? What style of music was Post Malone putting up? Oh, that's right. Rap. Yeah. His whole first album with that White Iverson song that got so popular and all this bullshit, generic bullshit. There were black rappers all over that album. As he was starting to get big, though, you could see a shift in the musical push. There was less rap hip hop being pushed, and all of a sudden there was this switch over to country. This fat bastard, what's his name? Jelly Roll, Fat Jelly Roll, came in. What genre of music was he with heavy? What style of musicians was he doing songs with a lot? Can you remind me again? Oh, that's right, rap. And what are both these friggin' white weirdos doing now? Nothing but country. Not even acknowledging anything rap. Their complete sound is switched. But what happened? They used a black sound to get them popular. This is the oldest trick in the book. You attach a white artist to a black sound or artist or artists that are already popular to give them the rub, and then eventually it's like, you know, a space shuttle launch. To get into space, they shoot the rocket up, but eventually the fuselage dislodges from the rocket ship and they go their own separate ways. The actual fuel that gets these bums popular and liked, other than the enormous amounts of money being pushed behind them, is black adjacent artists. Because what's the most generic thing about black culture? We're the coolest. We're the this and that, bro. We are the culture and this and that, which to me, in and of itself, is a poison and cancer to black people's minds. Like, the word culture is just purely commercial at this point. We're for the culture, for the culture. You guys are lost, bro. You just don't want to admit, or you are so... You know what's weird to me, bro? Let me humanize myself for a second. Like I've been saying, I grew up a black kid in Canada. I went through an Eminem phase. I dyed my hair blonde as a kid. I was brainwashed. Do you know I didn't find black and ethnic women attractive until I fucking checked myself? Literally, bro. Because I grew up and everything that was plastered in front of me was like Pam Anderson and shit. To be fair, Halle Berry too, I had a huge raging hard on for Halle, but it was mostly white women that have predominantly been pushed by the media as the beauty standard, especially in the West, especially in the 90s, 2000s. We can't deny that. I had a complex that I never even questioned. Okay, until I got old enough, I'm like, wait a second, why aren't I going for women of my race or other ethnics? It was like I was just obsessed and drooling over white women until I literally had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, yo, my entire surroundings have made me think this way. And did that stop me from dating white women? No, I still did. But maybe I had to check my biases and actually question my own behaviors and what led me to have those behaviors, which is my upbringing and environment. I dare say a lot of comfortable people, affluent people, but I'm going to be more specific here because I'm talking about like well-off, well-to-do, middle to upper class white people, they do not give a about checking themselves in any way, shape, or form about this because it makes them feel uncomfortable. They don't give a about making the effort to look outside their own biases. They don't give a about actually checking why they have the biases they have. And you know what? It's not just affluent white people. It's most people. Let me make this fair. Black people, bro, I grew up trying to be a hoodlum. I'm not a gangster, bro, but I tried because until I got enough positive influences around me, and then I grew up enough, and then I realized, I'm really going down a path that isn't me. Most people aren't sitting down with themselves and fighting the tears off. You know how hard that is? I'm like, damn, I've been messing up in life and it hurts, but nothing hurts anymore because I already did that. And I'm not saying that it's that deep, but it is that deep, bro. It is that deep. If you're going to be this uneducated that you're going to come at me thinking, for all white rappers today, Eminem had to walk so others could run. Undeniable impact. By your logic, all legends and OG rappers from the past are also Trojan horses. Yeah, dumbass. How do you think things got so commercial? Because Run DMC said, let's go. Give us the Adidas sponsorship. We'll put those Kangol hats and the Adidas tracksuits on, and we'll sell the out of those. Now all of a sudden Adidas is seen by as cool by the general public because these three black guys from New York are like, yeah, yo, hey. Shut the up. Stupid ass shit, nigga. You guys are weird. Eminem was a Trojan horse. Does that hurt your feelings? Maybe do a little digging and investigative research. It's not that difficult. Maybe get your head out of your ass. Let's look a little bit longer into this. I just typed these things randomly into Google. You know what I mean? Rock and roll is black. People also ask, is rock and roll originally black? The genre of rock and roll is derived from the musical traditions of blues, soul, R&B, jazz, and other inherently black styles. Again, I'm not looking too deep into this. In the early days of rock and roll, this is a Reddit post now. Posted on Ask Historians. In the early days of rock and roll, white musicians often shamelessly copied black musicians. How was this perceived by black musicians? I'll read the actual text here. I'm no music historian, but it seems like most of the most famous early white rockers, from Elvis to Jerry Lee Lewis to the Beatles to the Stones, were copying or covering black musicians, often with much greater success. Even the Beach Boys, Surfin' USA, arguably their most quintessential song was a reworking of a Chuck Berry song, Surprise, Surprise. I have a lot of questions. How was this perceived among black musicians or black intellectuals or black Americans in general? Were the original artists credited or compensated? Were there people in the 50s, 60s, white or black, who expressed opinions about the fact that a white musician performing the same music could usually vastly outsell the original black performers? Yeah, your favorites like friggin' Led Zeppelin and all them. What an original band. Literally stolen sound. I'm sorry. And they were good. I like Led Zeppelin. I like Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd, though, I think I usually confuse this. One of those two, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, one of those two actually did credit black musicians for giving them the inspiration for everything. It might be Led Zeppelin. It might be both. But either way, it's just historic. And Led Zeppelin will be the names that are known now, not the sounds that they came from. Because they would never bring them on stage. They would never friggin' put them on the tour. They would never put some money in their pockets. They would never give them a little commercial space. No. Because they got what they needed from them. And then they give them a little quote somewhere in a newspaper like, yeah, thanks, black artists. And then they just rake the money in themselves. Let's read some of the responses here. Starting points about Elvis's relationship with the black music community is a starting point for an artist who actually cared about black musicians and actively showcased them. An interesting story is that his version of White Christmas was inspired by versions by the Drifters, a black band which had seen a lot of radio play on black stations, but almost no play on white stations. When Elvis's version came out, Irvin Berling lost his shit to the point of having his staff call radio stations demanding they not play it. This was an amusing case of Elvis being inspired by a black cover of a song written by a white composer, where it was the white composer getting angry. Another example would be Pat Boone. Okay, this is Hella long. One aspect that hurts black artists in the 50s and 60s was that many of the black artists being copied were R&B or pure blues musicians, with their songs being converted to rock, meaning that they were almost always exclusively marketed to black audiences. Blues faded fast in the 50s and 60s in the US, with some artists such as Big Mama Thornton, Muddy Waters, and John Lee Hooker touring in Europe during the 70s. For example, the American Folk Blues Festival tour. The 1962 tour had audience members such as Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Brian Jones, and Jimmy Page, and thus the tour has been credited with influencing a lot of British invasion acts. R&B did well enough in the US, but was marketed in the US to black audiences as rock was marketed to white audiences and was often called race music. Just like the marijuana craze and all that stuff. Don't smoke weed, because that's what black people do, and they go crazy, and they do opium and do jazz music and blues music because they're crazy. And then you just steal it and you're like, we're not crazy. F***ing retarded. This marketing often formed a ceiling for black artists and was often dictated by their labels, and thus it was the choice of the label that could determine whether a black artist had mainstream access. A comparison in outcomes. Yo, shout outs James Brown, an absolute pioneer, one of the first guys to own all his shit and to actually give other black artists an opportunity and platform to own their stuff and get widely known. It was because he owned and pushed all his own shit. He paid for everything. I think he had a financier though. There was a white guy behind James Brown. But anyways, I know he owned his own stuff, which was revolutionary for back in the day. Okay, let's get off the rock stuff. Let's see, what's this? What are people's thoughts on Elvis stealing from black artists? In recent years, Elvis's reputation has been somewhat reevaluated, having been considered the king of rock and roll, as well as being considered the birth of it, which we know by now isn't really true. While personally, I don't think he's up there with the Beatles or Michael Jackson as a musician, I don't really understand why it's a big deal that his work was heavily inspired by black artists. I'd get it if he didn't mention them as inspirations or just disregard them, but that's not what happened. He wasn't afraid of telling people where he got his inspiration from. But to answer your question, this is a response. First of all, I think Elvis earned his stripes. But to answer your question, I think the reevaluation comes from A, his music not being as good or innovative as that of his black forefathers. B, him not being as instrumentally talented as those black artists who came before him. And C, him reaping the massive benefits of becoming the traditionally black genre's first superstar in a segregated America, while the real pioneers stood by and watched white America fawn over his covers of their songs and laud him as a trailblazer. Well said. The best contemporary example I can think of is the Negro League of baseball, as far as the historical race divides in the entertainment industry are concerned. The best players of a generation had to catch their white peers take the entire spotlight. I had to watch them. The lines between inspiration and plagiarism were a lot thinner back then. It wasn't just an Elvis thing. Anyways, that's the Elvis thing. How about this? I Googled folk music is black. This is the AI generated response. Folk music has significant and often unrecognized black origins and contributions stemming from the spiritual and work songs of enslaved Africans, the influence of African instruments like the banjo, and the deep cultural traditions of black communities in America. While often seen as a predominantly white genre, African American folk music has profoundly shaped and is an integral part of the broader history of American and global music, a rich tradition that continues to be reclaimed and celebrated by contemporary black artists like Rhiannon Giddens and Jake Blount. I guess I'll check them out. I don't know them, but I will end this little segment with, I think, one of the best voices in this specific field, KRS-One. He has so many lectures, so many clips, so many conversations, because again, he was there. He's one of the first voices in hip-hop, and he's one of the first to actually call out the sellouts in hip-hop. He's known as a legend. If you don't know KRS-One, then you just don't know hip-hop history, and you really only choose to look at it in a very narrow view, and I dare say you don't actually look outside the box of what you consider to be good or whatever you grew up on or your cultural, your stereotype. But this is a very short excerpt from one of his interviews, and I'll shut up while he says this.
Respectfully, Chris, but that's the essence of my question.
Yes,
Who owns the culture?
we do.
Again, so when you say that hip hop is doing well, and rap is doing bad, it looks like rap is strong.
No, rap is sold out. All house slaves look better than the field slave.
Thank you. Respectfully, Chris, but that's the essence of my question.
So do you get what he's saying? All house slaves look better than the field slaves. And this is, now let's bring it to comedy, because this is a comedy podcast. I have been screaming to the high heavens. And you know what? I've cooled off because, you know, I'm not a bitter friggin', I'm just on my platform giving my thoughts and opinions and sharing my personal experiences. What I've been saying about the comedy game for quite some time now is I got in it because I thought it was just a game about being funny. And then you realize a lot of unfunny, but hardworking people make it to the top. And then you realize a lot of ass kissing. Remember the analogy I gave about Run DMC? There was already better black hip hop groups that were approached when the industry was being created and they were looking to get their first mainstream rappers. They approached the better, more widely recognized as better rap group. And they said, we want to make you the hip hop group, one of the first pioneers, and they didn't want to sell out the culture. But then Run DMC was like, please put the Adidas jackets and Kangol hats on us. We will gladly sell out the culture so we can make money and have a legacy, blah, 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 blah. This is the position I'm at now. There's a lot of guys that I have watched in my 14-year come up who are just not as talented, might be harder working, and there's even some that are really talented, but you know, there's that side of the game that you go on. And nowadays, that's really the only way, bro. You can only get platformed by people with money if you're willing to play that money game. And that typically involves selling out your culture, selling out yourself, selling out your values, selling out your core beliefs. And that's just not what I got in this to be doing. I'm already getting the success that I wanted out of this. Now I just have to figure out how to get the monetary gains in a healthy way, because it is possible. Dudes like KRS-One still exist. You just have to kind of reassess what it is you want out of things and what you're comfortable with. And I'm not going to say I wouldn't love a worldwide tour in arenas and all that stuff. I absolutely would. You know, but I just don't want to get it in the weird ways that the industry has already asked me to shuck and jive and change myself to fit into a mold so that they can package me and help use me, not even help, just use me so that they can sell advertising space. And there's a lot of those guys around me, and there's a lot of those guys everywhere, and that's just what it is. The best artists, period, are the underground ones, and I've learned this over time. And that's not, bro, yeah, okay, Chappelle and all, like, this is kind of hard to lump in with all the older stuff because the come up is not the same anymore. You know, you actually needed the talent, especially in a genre like comedy, because now it's just blowing up to the point where it is as big as music and all this stuff. But back then, in the origins of comedy, you needed the talent to get the platform. You do not. You just need to hit your posts. You just need to hit the algorithm. You just need to do what the algorithm wants you to do, and you will get it. In a much broader sense now, you will get it. Just shuck and jive, bro. Just sell out. Because that's what this whole thing is about, right? That's what we got into this for. Eminem stinks. By the way, his legacy, in hindsight, if you're being honest, isn't that great. Eminem Infinite, amazing. Marshall Mathers LP, Slim Shady LP, great. Eminem Show, good. Anything past that, just unlistenable, childish, weird shit. And even to go back to it, hard to go back to even the good Eminem stuff. For me, remember, for me, because it just... And now I have too much other context with what Eminem brought to the game. You know, even things like Mac Miller, who I consider to be infinitely better and have a longer lasting appeal than someone like Eminem because there's more artistry to what he did. Mac always bigged up nothing but black influences in this guy's life. Always said it and always gave those people platforms, always put their names out there. That is so much more respectable to me than what Eminem did, which was leech off the culture, be given a position to be an insane white boy to help sell white people the image that they needed for their community. Because they weren't going to get the messaging that the industry wanted them to get with the hip hop and gun violence. Some of them did, the trickle down shit. But for the most part, a suburban white kid is not going to latch onto that messaging other than some zoo type shit, some voyeurism type shit. Like watching through the looking glass type stuff. I'm looking at the ratchetness in the black community from the other side of safety. Like there's a safety line here. But how do the industry now get to those white kids? Oh, let's start pushing pills, depression music, angry music, school shooter music. They had to segregate it. You think this is by accident? You're so narrow-minded, bro. Most people are narrow-minded. Sorry, but that's literally what it is, bro. Holy. Anyways, I'm gonna skip the comedy recap this week because I really do want to talk about it with Dante. I had such a crazy experience recently at the Corner Comedy Club where I did 2 sets last Saturday. I did 2 sets last Saturday, and the second set was a guest spot. I wrote this new joke on the spot, but when I tell it fully, like, man, it's probably my favorite joke I've ever written just because it came literally off the spot. I had audience members and comics after the show being like, that wasn't written. Like, you told it like it was the most polished thing. It was about Tulsa King, the most garbage of Sylvester Stallone projects, this new show with Sylvester Stallone. Oh, bruh. I got to talk about it with the boy Dante in the studio. So I will end this episode with something we do here every week. Sometimes you love it and sometimes you hate it, ladies and gentlemen. It's In These Comedy Streets. Week to week, usually Dante and myself, just this week, just myself, head into the comedy pages on the internet, mostly Reddit. We look at what people are discussing, asking, commenting on in the world of comedy, and we give our own 2 cents this week. No different. From r/standup on Reddit, posted by Deagle101. Why is ChatGPT so bad at writing stand-up? I hate this already, but let me read the text before I get to why. I've been experimenting with ChatGPT to help punch up my stand-up material, but honestly, the results have been rough. It technically writes jokes, but they always feel off, either way too clean and predictable or completely random. Any tips? Here's my tip. Jump off a cliff. Go yourself. You're not doing comedy. You're doing bullshit. And like, yo, everything is done. It's all over. If you can't have an original thought in comedy, you idiot, like you have to use GPT to help punch up your jokes, you suck. You absolutely suck. There's no returning from that. You need an AI, which you already know. Have you used AI at all? This guy obviously has. I'm asking you, whoever is listening or watching, have you used it? Then you know it spits out some pretty robotic sounding statements. Imagine being a comedian and reading cue cards from a computer. Bitch, comedy is about life experiences and relating that in your own words, you weak-minded pussy. I hope this is a troll. Otherwise, I hope you just get out of comedy and stay out because you're not a comedian. You're not writing jokes. These are crib notes. This is what we're doing. See, this is already opened the floodgates even further because we are just further getting removed from any real artistry. Like now the division of race and art is just going to be human and computer generated art. It just keeps finding new ways to divide us and slice shit up. Why is ChatGPT so bad at writing stand-up? Maybe because stand-up is a human thing, you dumbass. Maybe because human experiences, real life experiences, are what make funny jokes, are what real material is birthed from. What are you talking about? Are you going to type in a bunch of life experiences you've had to ChatGPT and have it now tell me some jokes on the things that I experienced? Are you that daft? Are you that you can't sit down and just think in silence, you dumbass? Why don't you get a journal, a pen and a pad, and just write down all the things that have happened and just slowly chip away at that? Why not do what most comics do from the beginning of comedy and go hit up open mics and just try stuff and fail until you find the right words? Why is ChatGPT so bad at writing stand-up? Because you are so bad at writing stand-up that you don't even know how to ask ChatGPT to write good stand-up. Maybe if you were good at writing, you would know how to write good prompts so that you could get somewhat decent jokes out of a fake thing to go tell real human beings that have just paid you money. I can tell you're not getting paid for comedy at this point because you're using GPT to help you write your jokes. Loser. Let's read some of these comments and get the hell out of here. Write your own shit would be my advice. Thank you. That's pretty good. The missing element is a human being. Absolutely. Writing comedy is so artistically complex, only a minuscule fraction of the human population can do it. And you expect a computer to do it better? AI writes corporate emails. This is true. Source, I am a corporate drone. Also, a corporate drone, I let ChatGPT do my day job so I can spend more time typing to write stand-up. This is a good joke. A great impression of an AI dude. Well done. Hilarious. Rage bait. Don't engage. That's what I'm suspecting, because who you're asking ChatGPT for jokes and complaining it ain't funny? Apparently neither are you. I'll read one more here. Why would you even want to use ChatGPT? Surely the joy in joke writing lies in the crafting of words, the trying out different ideas, learning through doing, aiming to come up with that next big punchline you can really be proud of. If you don't enjoy writing jokes, then why do you want to do stand-up? ChatGPT is good for writing letters and emails and not much else. But as a plaything, surely the novelty has worn off by now? Question mark. Very well said. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this solo edition of Black Zeus the podcast. I've given you a full episode all on my own. And I think we talked about some great stuff. Yeah, maybe have some education behind your opinions. Maybe before you get so butthurt because you heard somebody quote unquote attacking your favorite thing, you stop to think, hey, is this person attacking me? Or A, is this just an opinion, which shouldn't affect me to that point? And maybe there's actually some points in here that might change. I think you have to be a little open-minded. You understand that even my opinions, I have my opinions. My opinions don't have me. I can learn something or hear something from someone else that can make me go, let me look into that a little more, as opposed to just, I am AKA Black Zeus on all social media. Instagram mainly is the place to be. Here is the main place to be. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all the people that have been hitting that subscribe, have been watching, following, engaging in any way, shape, or form. I love y'all so much. Thank you once again. This has been Black Zeus the podcast, season 6, episode 32. Until next week, peace.
Hey, it's Hen Dog.
Black Zeus the podcast, season 6, featuring Black Zeus and Dante, aka Black Zeus on YouTube.